Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're not just telling the story of the Persian invasion of 490 BC, we are going to break it down. We're going to uncover how a campaign, often remembered only for its final, famous defeat, was actually a masterclass in ancient strategy, meticulously planned from the very beginning.
You've probably heard this famous line. It paints this incredible picture of the Persian king Darius, so obsessed with revenge that a servant supposedly had to remind him 3 times at every single meal. But was personal vengeance really the whole story? Or was something much, much bigger at play?
So Herodotus, who's our main Greek source for all this, gives us this super dramatic personal motive. And look, revenge for the burning of Sardis was definitely a factor, but it was probably the justification, not the actual goal. It was the perfect cover story. Persian actions and their own records point to a far more strategic objective: cold, calculated imperial expansion into Europe. The revenge angle makes for a great story, but the reality was conquest.
All right, so to really get inside this master plan, we're going to break the campaign down into 5 key strategic phases. We're going to follow every single calculated move they made on their path to the fateful plains of Marathon.
Okay, so first things first, you have to understand the context here. The first time the Persians tried to invade Greece in 492 BC, it was a complete and utter disaster. Their entire fleet, led by a guy named Mardonius, got absolutely shattered by a storm off Mount Athos. So, learning from that failure was everything. For round 2, King Darius needed a new plan and 2 new commanders: an experienced Mede named Datis and the king's own nephew, Artaphernes. And that leads us right into their first critical decision. The new commanders, Datis and Artaphernes, had clearly studied what went wrong. Their number one job was to make sure a storm couldn't just wipe out the whole invasion again.
And wow, this slide right here shows you the sheer brilliance of their new strategy. Datis completely ditched that treacherous coastal route that doomed the first fleet. Instead, he planned a direct, island-hopping campaign straight across the Aegean Sea. Not only was this way faster and safer, but it was made possible by a real game-changer in logistics: specially designed ships built just to transport their most powerful weapon, the Persian cavalry.
Now, don't think for a second this was some random tour of the Greek islands. As you can see, this was a methodical path of conquest. It all kicked off in Cilicia, where this massive force gathered. And from there, every single stop was a deliberate chess move, designed to secure the seas and send a crystal-clear message to anyone thinking about resisting.
But here's the thing. Datis was playing 4D chess here. He didn't just rely on brute force. As he moved through the Aegean, he used this incredibly sophisticated stick-and-carrot strategy, switching between raw, terrifying power and calculated, surprising mercy.
First up, he brought out the stick. The island of Naxos had defied Persia years before and had helped kick off the whole Ionian revolt. For Datis, this was just unfinished business, and he decided to make a brutal, unforgettable example of them.
I mean, listen to that. This was total destruction. Not just conquering a city, but literally wiping it off the map. And burning the temples? That was a very direct tit-for-tat retaliation for the Greeks, burning the temple in Sardis. The message to every other island in their path was terrifyingly clear: this is the price of resistance. But after demonstrating the stick, Datis immediately flips the script and offers the carrot. As his fleet approached the sacred island of Delos, the mythical birthplace of the gods Apollo and Artemis, he did something nobody expected.
Instead of attacking, Datis sends this message of peace, telling the terrified locals to chill out. Then he reportedly makes this huge offering of 300 talents of frankincense on the holy altar. This was like an ancient PR masterclass. It was designed to show that Persia respected local gods and traditions if you submitted peacefully.
And this right here, this brings up a huge question we always have to ask when we read our main source, Herodotus. How on earth could he have known the exact words Datis spoke in that message?
And this table just lays it all out perfectly. That verbatim quote, it's almost certainly Herodotus adding some dramatic flair for his Greek audience. However, the action itself, sparing a holy site, that fits perfectly with what we know about official Persian policy. Imperial records like the famous Cyrus Cylinder show this consistent pattern of religious tolerance. So while the words might be Herodotus's, the strategy, that was 100% Persian. So, with the islands now pacified with this potent mix of terror and diplomacy, Datis closes the net on one of his 2 main targets, laid out by King Darius himself, the city of Eretria.
For 6 long days, the city of Eritrea put up a fierce, heroic fight against the full might of the Persian invasion. According to Herodotus, the casualties were just staggering on both sides.
But on that 7th day, the city didn't fall to overwhelming military force alone. No, it was brought down from the inside. And Herodotus, he doesn't pull any punches, he actually names names. But we do have to be a little careful here. In ancient history, blaming a defeat on treason was a really common way to explain a military failure without having to admit you were weaker or got outfought. It kind of preserves your city's honor. So while it's definitely possible it happened, we can't be 100% sure.
With Eritrea sacked, its temples burned, and its people enslaved, the first big objective was officially checked off the list. Now the Persian fleet sailed for the coast of Attica. And they weren't just, throwing a dart at a map. Oh no, they had an expert guide, Hippias, the exiled former tyrant of Athens, who knew the lay of the land better than anyone.
Look, the choice of Marathon was anything but random. It was a cold, hard, tactical decision. Hippias pointed the fleet there for one specific reason. Its wide, flat plain was the perfect arena to unleash the Persian army's greatest weapon, that powerful cavalry they had so carefully brought all the way from Asia. They were planning to fight this battle completely on their own terms.
Okay, let's just hit pause for a second. Right before this famous battle, as the Persian army is landing on that beach, let's just assess the campaign from their point of view. How successful have this invasion actually been so far?
The answer? I mean, just look at this scorecard. It was a massive, overwhelming success. Datis had executed the king's plan with absolute precision. He'd gotten revenge on Naxos, he'd pacified the Aegean, destroyed one of his 2 main targets, and successfully landed a massive invasion force, cavalry and all, on a perfect battlefield just a day's march from his final prize, Athens.
From their point of view, this campaign was a work of art, a masterpiece of planning and execution. They held all the cards. Momentum was completely on their side, and victory seemed not just possible, but absolutely inevitable.
And that is what makes what happens next so mind-blowing, and one of the most famous upsets in all of military history. It's the crucial takeaway from the road to Marathon. A perfect plan, flawlessly executed, can bring you right to the edge of victory. But what looks inevitable on paper can be completely shattered in an instant on the battlefield. The real test was just about to begin.